Yep. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another 3D Hangout. It is Wednesday. I'm Noe Ruiz, designer here at Adafruit. Joining me every week is Mr. Pedro Ruiz.
That's correct. We need to update that animation in the beginning.
Every time we do it, it's like, it's not Thursday.
Pedro Ruiz, creative tech here at Adafruit, and every week we come to share 3D printing projects featuring electronics from Adafruit.
Yep, that's right. This is where we combine 3D printing and DIY electronics to make a special project for you folks. Speaking of which, welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have some usual suspects. Ryder, James are hitting it up. And Michael is here too. How you guys doing?
Thank you all for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday. I have a coupon code for you guys, as always. Today, it's RGBW.
Yeah, I tweeted it out yesterday, but it was like kind of coded. It was like R-A-R-E-B-E-E. Anyway, RGBW is sort of the theme of the show, because this week's project relies heavily on RGBW. Yeah, so this week's project is a 3D printed enclosure ring holder thing for NeoPixel rings. It's more of a NeoPixel oval.
So we showed this off last week, and we are releasing it today. So we're using the all-new, well, not super new, but pretty new for
new to us.
Yeah, so this is using two different types of LEDs inside there. One that's primarily used for the white, one that is used for red, green, and blue. And as we stated in the project video, we've done this before on using just a regular 60 NeoPixel ring, but the problem with that is that we're mixing red, blue, and green to create the white, and that does not cast a very good tone on skin when you're shooting video or pictures.
Yeah.
So having a dedicated white ring or light for the LED is definitely more desirable in terms of reproducing the colors.
Yeah. So we made that project before. We had RGBW NeoPixels, and we've had analog RGBW, but it's a little bit difficult to control. So this is using the kind of same NeoPixel library, which has support for RGBW. We have quite a bit of them. There's different types of sort of color temperatures. So you have natural, you have cool, warm, and I think those are the three. So what is this one?
So we're using the natural white for this one, just because we wanted to have a nice little balance between them. But like you were saying, we do offer a cooler white and a warmer white. One of the strange things, though, to keep in mind when checking out the color temperature for this, it's completely backwards in terms of if you're used to shooting or setting your white balance on your DSLR camera, the 60 or 6000K is usually warmer or more orange, but in this case for lights, and I've noticed this on like LED bulbs as well, 60 is actually cooler. The 30,000K is actually the warmer one, which is pretty strange, coming from a camera world.
3000?
Yeah, the 3000K is the warmer one.
If you don't know, just look at the site, because I don't know. I know how to use a camera, but I don't know what number is what color. To be honest, I really don't care. So that's why we define them as warm and cool and natural, because that gives you better visualization other than a number like 3K, whatever.
So modular design, if you could take a look at the Fusion 360 files, you can update this, and you can use a different phone or different, completely different camera for this. So you can attach this to a GoPro if you'd like. What are we looking at here? The guide? Okay. So as we stated in the video, the way that this is able to produce a much better color is because of the dedicated white light they have there. Check that out and the comparisons that we did with the old one and the new one. Yeah,
it was also kind of power inefficient.
The old one.
Yeah, kind of creating white light with RGBs. A little power hungry. You have to power all three diodes. And you get this like purpley look to it. It's never really white.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool for like lighting effects, but not that great for photography.
Yeah, so the cool thing about having the dedicated white one is if you wanted, you could mix in additional RGB values, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So you can still create different sort of lighting effects too.
Right.
Like if you, instead of getting like a gel, which a lot of people in production do, they'll have a different gel to create a different look. You might be able to do it through just mixing in some of the RGB values.
Cool. So a 60 NeoPixel ring uses you have to kind of you have to solder them together because they come in quarters. So it's just more efficient to kind of produce.
That is
them
one
this
thing
way,
to
like
keep
to
in mind.
panelize
If
them.
you order this and you select one, you will get 1/4 of this.
Yeah.
So you have to select 4 when
Yeah, that's
if
why I
you want
have
to do a
4X.
complete ring.
Right.
We just got to keep reiterating this.
Yeah, no, of course. So take a look at the parts list if you are interested in building one.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of the cool thing here is that we were just going to make a regular ring, but you and Brandy really wanted to have the phone be in the center of the ring, and your phone, which is an iPhone 7 Plus, you know, is too big. It's big camera. Phablets are a little bit too big for a 60 ring, so it would kind of be in the way. So elongating it with 2 NeoPixel sticks is really kind of the difference here with any other light ring. I haven't seen a light ring that's an oval shape or that's attached directly to a phone. So that's pretty interesting. So the first kind of tip that I wanted to share with you guys is to connect these type of PCBs together. Kind of the only way to do it is with header pins.
So no, I mean, okay, connecting the rings themselves, you don't have to use the header pins. The way we did it before was just sliding solder across, but you can't really do that when attaching a stick, and that's because...
That's because they don't line up. the pads on the stick versus the pads on the quarter rings, they aren't exactly lined up. So what you need to do is cut little pieces of header, tin the pads, and then kind of rotate the header so that it can connect ground to ground. So that's what you did here, which is something I've done before was with the Trellis project, and even some of the screens where you have to kind of, like the matrices, like you can combine them together, 2 different PCBs together, and the best way to do it, I really think, is to use header pins. So
there is a big warning sign with this, though. When you're using this, do not apply too much pressure or like bend them a lot, because you can literally rip off the copper pads from that.
Yeah, you don't want to.
So you want to watch out for that.
Yeah, it's not going to add. It's going to add strength to it, but still be careful with them. They're a little fragile. Not that fragile, but you know. Another tip I have is kind of the best way to solder these together and keep them very, very steady is to have 2 third helping hands, because 4 hands are always better than 3 hands. So what we did here was we used 1 hand to hold kind of the quarter assembly, and then the other hand to hold the next PCB. So that really is helpful a lot. So if you don't have 2 helping hands, it's always good to have another one.
Yeah.
Because then you can have one held up while you're like tinning wires in another one.
Yeah, you don't want to use one because they are going to flop over because of the size of them. So it's always handy to have 2. And the flexible arm ones, even though they're cool, it has a lot of arms, you really need something that can is easy to stabilize in terms of alignment. Because alignment is going to be a big thing with this. If they're not equally at the same height, they're going to not fit into your enclosure as well. And when you're soldering them, the headers together, there's going to be a big old gap between the solder pads. So you definitely want to make sure that they are completely aligned, nicely leveled, straight, to connect these together.
Good point.
So the other tip is when you are connecting these together is to tin both sides or both pads. Use a tweezer to hold the header on top of that, and then just heat it up right from the middle, so both pads are heated up at the same time, and then let go of the tweezer and the header, and then just let it cool on its own. Don't blow on it, and it'll give you a nice strong connection on that.
Yeah, I don't know how else you would do this. You don't use your fingers, they would burn. So I don't know how else you would do this without tweezers. I really don't. Like, flush snips wouldn't really do it. Anyway, that's how it's done. All right, so another kind of tip is it's more 3D printing wise. So this one is, a lot of the times I'll design an enclosure and just have mounting holes built into it. So I painstakingly kind of make sure, test tolerances that my holes line up with the mounting holes on the PCB or whatever it is. But in this case, you made it easier where you can just kind of make your own holes.
Yeah, so I omitted adding any of the mounting holes to that just to save on prototyping time, because this did take quite a while. And I wasn't sure if I was going to use a trinket or a feather to control the light, because we wanted to add a potentiometer to control the brightness of it. And we were like, oh, if we just put a feather board on there, through Bluetooth, we'd be able to just adjust that. But in the end, I chose to go with the lower cost solution and just using the trinket. And because of that, I didn't add any mounting holes and left it up to whoever is building this to put in the mounting holes. So we're using a Pro Needle tool to mark out where each board is going to go, and then heat it up, poke through it, and then we're able to fit M2 screws inside there to create the threads. So this will fit a feather board or a Pro trinket, or in this case, a regular 5-volt trinket like we're using here. So that's, I think, a cool little advantage there. Instead of having multiple mounting holes added to that for all the different boards, you can just go in there and poke out the any of the mounts that you need. And because you don't really need all 4 screws to hold the trinket, you can just poke 2 holes in there to, diagonally to hold that in place. So the Pro Needle tool actually came with our Lulzbot Taz, but you can pick this up at any arts and crafts store. It's primarily used as a sculpting tool to add details and of course poke holes through any sculptures. So you could pick that up. Definitely handy for unclogging extruders, nozzles. So nice little tool to have in your belt.
Yep. And this was also the same method you did for mounting, or rather securing the pixel stick PCBs to the housing. So they have 2 mounting holes.
Yeah, something that we didn't have before with the 60 NeoPixel ring. There's no mounting holes on that, but the sticks do have 2.
So it's pretty secure. It won't pop out because it's held in place nicely.
So that's a nice little tip there. And one thing I forgot to mention, that why I really like the Pro Needle tool, it's the exact diameter needed for an M2 screw.
Yeah, because it'd be a little bit difficult if you made it too big of a hole. You could always make the hole bigger, but you can't make it smaller.
Yeah.
Just print it out again. All right, cool. All right, so Flex PCBs is a great thing to have. If you don't have a Flex PCB yet, definitely use them. We're using them primarily to just add more power and ground pins to a microcontroller. So the trinket only has kind of 1 or 2, 1 ground, and you need several grounds here. So using a piece of Flex PCB is really handy.
Yeah. So the thing that I had to do before we figured out how to do this is that I was painstakingly making these Y cables, where I would create 1 cable and then have 2 that would connect to it to split out any of those connections, and that was big pain in the butt, because you needed all these third helping hands to hold everything together. This is just simply just cutting off how many power rails you need, or how many connections you need. And one thing to point out, which I didn't notice until you mentioned it later, was the rails on the side have actually a bigger trace on them for power and ground. So I'd probably recommend using those instead of the little ones that I cut off there.
Yeah.
You can see that. They're a
ones.
lot more thicker.
Yep.
So use those.
Yeah, a little piece will go a long way. And you can use scissors to cut them. So, I've used Perma Protos before, which are FR4 boards, I believe. Yeah, FR4, and they're a pain to cut. You really need to, you don't want to breathe the dust in. You need a Dremel tool. This is really easy to do. And it's thin and a little fragile. You can apply solder, tin them to kind of make the strength a little bit bigger. So, be careful a little bit with them. It is flex, but you shouldn't be flexing them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a tip for actually holding these while you solder, you are actually having a sacrificial little pin there to throw away after you solder it.
Yeah. So I would make see how you need 3 connections here? I would have 4, and then one of them would be a sacrificial pin, because this little helping hand would kind of bite it and mess it up a little bit. Yeah,
so the tip here is use a tweezer to hold on to the cut piece, and then from there you're going to attach it to a third helping hand. And not pictured here, the other helping hand is actually holding the end of that tweezer to stabilize that, because otherwise it's going to flip over with only one of those hands holding on to the tweezer.
Yep. And you're kind of, the tweezers, really fine tip, so you can solder all the pins without covering a pin.
Yeah.
That's really it.
And you can even solder on top of that, and when you're done, it'll just pop right off. It won't ruin any of the solder that you slide across it.
Did you guys know that you can make photos bigger in the learning guide? You just have to click on it?
Yeah, when you click on it, it'll take you to the original size of it, and you can get a bunch of different sizes that the system in the back end
Yep.
processes for us.
Cool.
Okay, the other tip on this is, I want to say,
I don't know.
cutting the trace for that.
That's not really a tip, but yeah.
Cut them. Oh, okay, another thing in the code, because these do come from different suppliers, you want to make sure that if it doesn't work, instead of typing in RGBW, type in GRBW to get the library to recognize.
Yeah, so we have a strand test called strand test RGBW, and that's for the RGBW class NeoPixels. That one does come with, does it say? Yeah, that one says like Neo RGBW, but when I tried that out, it didn't work with ours. So the other thing is to just try to use GRBW. I know it's weird. It's like backwards GRB. What's up with that? But just some of them need that. So if you get unexpected results, just change it accordingly, and it's really simple. Yeah, the code's really simple. It's using the code wipe function. That's right here, and that's it. I just add an extra value to it. So it's pretty simple to add support for it. If you have an older NeoPixel library, just make sure it's up to date. You can do that via Arduino's library manager. So that's pretty simple.
Cool. Jumping over to the 3D printing part of this whole project, you are going to need a bed that is 230 by at least 220 to be able to fit the elongated shape of the
big
ring.
Right. So this is the main housing part. It's the biggest part of the print. And it doesn't fit on a Flash Forge. It doesn't fit on the Replicator 2, but it does fit on the Ultimaker 2, which is nice.
Yeah. For printing out your skirt or your brim, you might have to rotate it. If this is not fitting, I believe I tried printing it on there, and it was getting up to the edges. The main reason I didn't use it, though, is because I only had 175 for the type of filament that I use, the neutral white color, which offers a really nice diffusion for the LEDs. And to print it reliably, I use the BCN3D Sigma.
Yeah, so it fits on the Sigma, obviously.
And another tip because this is a pretty big part, and to get this to print under an hour, I think it was like about 40 minutes to print this entire thing, I used a 0.6 millimeter nozzle at 0.3 millimeter layer height. So pretty rough, but it comes out really nice. The strength on these parts are really tough because we're using a larger nozzle size for that.
Yeah.
So
I don't have any imagery for that, sorry.
Yeah, so this is one of those cases where a larger nozzle is, you're not going to lose any detail. You're actually going to increase the strength of it and dramatically lower down your print time for these.
Right, so what was it before with a 0.4 nozzle?
I didn't even look. I knew it would be probably double, so at least 2 hours just to print this part. And when you're in prototyping mode, you want to get these out really fast. So you definitely always want to use a larger nozzle for that if you don't have that much detail in your model. And some of the standard print settings here, just 240C and 60 millimeters a second. The reason it's printing so hot is because the amount of filament you're pushing through the 0.6 millimeter nozzle. You want to make sure that it is nice and malleable when it's coming out of the nozzle. And then big tip is the thin wall parameters. You always want to visualize your toolpath before you kick off a print to make sure that there's no zigzags going in between the walls. You want to make sure that all the walls are a nice straight line to build out the entire outline for all your pieces. You don't want any zigzags. You don't want any weird gaps being left in between them. This will increase the strength of your part. And then for the support material, you are going to need just a couple little pillars for the slot part on the clip mount where the battery slides into.
Yeah,
so the resolution size that we use for that is just a 2 millimeter sized pillar. So very tiny little guy, and it just goes across the outer side of the slot there. You don't want to put it on the inside because it is going to be a little bit more difficult to remove. And then our favorite tool for removing these supports, the flush cutters. You can see if you scroll a little bit down there. And then those, you just clip them from the top and the bottom, and then clip them right in the middle, and they should pop right off. If you have any leftover parts of the support material, you can use a hobby knife to cut those off. You want it to be pretty smooth to easily slide the battery holder inside of that. And I think that's pretty much it.
Cool.
Type of material you're using again is the neutral white. PLA PHA actually is what we had in stock for this, but we do have a regular PLA version of this. Switch over to the overhead.
Cool. I'm going to fix something while you do that, okay?
Yeah, so this, you don't really need it, but it does add a nice little diffusion to that. And the cover pops right off like that. It does actually offer some stability to the outer rings right here, because again, these are not held in place by any of the mounting, by any of the mounts like these sticks are. So you do want to have something to protect these, but they're not going to fall out on you. And then for the back, like I was saying, you can have all of the parts exposed, but you can also make a little separate part to enclose this. So for charging, you can hook up your micro or mini USB, depending on which trinket you decide to use on that. And the other tip is really just wire management, to make sure that all of your wires are nicely bundled, so they're not, sort of a nice nest of wires everywhere. So you just want to make sure that they're all sized properly, so you can easily, neatly hide those into the back like that. And that's pretty much it. Like we were saying before, you can modify the Fusion 360 files if you want to use a different phone, or if you don't even need the phone at all. It works perfect as just a single ring light. Like so. And of course you can change the startup in the Arduino code if you don't want to do the little marquee going around there, if you just want it to instantly turn on. And it makes a very awesome light, as you can see there. We used it already for all the part shots. I already had one built and I kept using it on that. Especially with like the micro or the macro shots where you're like close and you have like a shadow because of how close you are. It does a really nice job of diffusing some light onto your small parts. And of course you do get that really awesome ring effect on your eyes when you're using the front-facing camera for doing like a live Facebook Live or something like that. So definitely handy. I wish we had these a couple years ago when we needed lights. But if you're looking to make a cool little light for any of your DIY projects, it's definitely the way to go. Definitely a lot more cheaper than having to get any of the other pro studio lighting equipment. All the parts, I think it's about $80, which is definitely cheaper than any of those pro lighting solutions. So you want to build your own, check it out. You can use today's discount code RGBW. It'll get you 10% off.
This works. Okay, cool. I fixed that. Yay. Cool. Now it's just making it so the chat and the face cam will show up in the browser. There we go. Yeah, be sure to check out Pedro's guide too. If you want those tips and stuff that we talked about. It's all there. Cool. Anybody have any questions about it? Let us know throughout the show.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Oh, and one thing, we have all of the camera parts that we always like using, like the mini swivel head and the 3/8 to quarter adapter that you can add onto here. I got those. It'll work with a bunch of the different camera projects we always work on. One thing to note too, if you're going to mount this onto a tripod, you are going to need a little bit of buffer to make sure that these are aligned. So you also have these hot shoe adapters as well that'll slide in right there to give it an extra, the extra, what's it called, height that you'll require if you're attaching this to a tripod. So the hot shoe adapter will slide into here, and then you have a 1/4-20 on the bottom to attach that to a quick release plate. So just a little tip on that. If you're going to use this just like on a C-stand or a tripod. It's a way to attach that. And with that, that's this week's project video.
Yay! Cool. Okay.
All right, just checking out the chat room. Saying hello to Simon. He's in the house. Roger, Charles,
Hey, Roger.
Ryder, James, Perith, Jeremy Lee is in the house.
Charles.
What's going on, guys? Oh, and over on Facebook as well. Hello, everybody.
Okay. Hello, Facebook. We generalize Facebook. All right, cool.
All right, cool. All right, so you got some really cool things you've been prototyping, Noah. What do you got to show?
Yeah, so next week's project is this guy. So about a year ago, I started a MIDI project, a MIDI controller. Is it here? So this will be next week's project. It's using a Adafruit Feather 32.4 Bluefruit BLE. And it's using, so it's kind of like a remix project of Todd Trace's project that he did, I think last year. So it's using capacitive touch sensor, the MRP121, and it's a couple of NeoPixels. So it's kind of like a step sequencer with a couple different modes. So Todd did awesome work on sort of the interface for it. So there's different modes. You can sort of trigger different modes. You can have more steps, change the tempo, have shuffle changes, all sorts of stuff, different MIDI channels, change the pitch, all through just a combination of buttons. So I was working, we were kind of collaborating on like a good enclosure for this project because it's a great foundation, but we kind of want to wrap it in a little enclosure. So I got a little crafty and came up with this thing. So it's like a hexagon shape with 6 sides and 6 different touchpads. So these are actually machined out of aluminum on the other Mill Pro, and the cover is also machined out of it's machined out of cherry wood. So the thing with the aluminum is that they are attached to wires with copper tape. So there's the inside of it. It's a really simple circuit, just 2 boards and a battery. So we don't need a charging circuit because the feathers all have built-in charging, so it's awesome. And a really big 2500 milliamp battery. And a slide switch, of course, turn it off and on. So this is like a year ago. I'm kind of reworking it a little bit because I found the pads are a little bit too close to each other, so sometimes my finger slips and kind of presses to it at the same time. So I'm just offsetting it a little bit and adding some different mounting fixtures to it. But that's basically it. Next week's project, yep. And I think that's really it from there. I'll pull out some tips and things that I learned from it next week. But for now, it's just finalizing it and
fitting it inside the enclosure. And I think a big point about this, which we're sort of glossing over, this is wireless Bluetooth MIDI. This is native. There's no latency on this.
Yeah, very low latency, like
very
20
low latency.
milliseconds, 30 milliseconds, so whatever.
This is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's
being able to use this as a controller. Sure. So take a look at this.
Yeah, if anybody's interested in MIDI, and yeah, do y'all know what MIDI is? Like, should I explain what MIDI is? Or? It's just a protocol for controlling different audio apps.
Oh,
so
yeah, there's a NeoPixel ring right in here to show you for creating like a sequence or a beats.
So it'll
so we'll show this working next week.
Yeah, right now it's not working.
All right, cool.
That's it. That's really it. That's as much as I can get out of it in this short time frame because I am kind of rushing to get it done. I got to start milling as soon as the show's done and start filming that.
So another thing that I've been prototyping past couple of days is this cool little logo. It's 3D printed. Lego.
Not logo.
Lego. So it's 3D printed. It's obviously compatible with all the Legos. We got this little robot that I was very fascinated by with the LED light bricks that they have inside here. So I decided to try to 3D print one, and here's what we got. So we got a little sequin in the LR41 coin cell batteries inside here, and it worked out pretty good. One of the things with the ones that Lego has with their light bricks is it's used as a projection. I can't turn this off because I already took the batteries on there to make mine work. So I'll show that off next week. But the way that you activate these is by having the little plunger thing in there and then activating it this way.
But
I wanted one
contacts.
Yeah, but I wanted one to illuminate upwards instead of shooting it outwards, because if you can see the LED, it's pointing outwards from here and it just shoots out. This one is just illuminating the block on its own. So the cool thing about that is that you can activate it just by putting Lego pieces right next to each other, like that. So it'll activate like that. You can have that turned on. And I really like how small I was able to make this enclosure. You have a number 256, which I think is a M2 equivalent, that's holding the bottom cover onto this, and it doesn't interfere with any of your Lego stacking on that, so that's cool. So I think this will be a pretty cool little project, because the Lego, I think the bricks, one of these costs like $10, which is sort of the Lego, I guess, up whatever price.
The Lego premium quality.
Yeah,
cost.
This costs not that much to. Obviously, it's like cents and material and the little sequin and the coin cell battery, so not too much going on there.
Right. So you got a Lego set. Was it last week? And I've never played with Lego. Paige has never really played with Lego. Mm-hmm. And we kind of were immersed in it. We're like, wow, this is actually cool. I see what the big deal is to kind of make them.
Yeah. So
as we were playing with them, you thought of, why not make our own sort of light up Lego? It seems to be the trend we do, light things up.
Yeah. so it's been mentioned in some of our meetings before to make one of these.
Right,
so.
But it was more about like making Lego mounts for feather boards or maybe for certain playgrounds.
So in researching
but
that,
to make a light up
Lego
brick is pretty neat. So you can do a lot of different things with it. So if you're a fan of Lego, we're asking you guys, what kind of ideas do you have to build something? So now that we have like the Lego brick built, what do we do with it, right? So is it like a campfire? Is it a kryptonite brick? What should it be? Right?
Yeah,
what were your ideas?
Because it looks cool, like on a robot, where it's just turned on the whole time instead of you going in there to actuate it. But for lighting scenes or anything like that, I think that was probably one of the cool ideas. Have it in the buildings, to have things already powered on, turned on, to give it sort of life. And I don't know, let us know in the comments what sort of sceneries this would look good in. And of course, we'll add different LED sequin lights as well.
Vince is saying, Brick Link is my kryptonite?
Brick Link, yeah, I think I was checking that out.
What is that? I'm really new to Lego World. I don't know all the pieces.
Yeah. But super cool. Yeah, give us ideas on any of the things you'd like to see illuminated this inside of. And we'll do some Lego time-lapse builds of these to add these inside. But we'll talk about more about this next week. The week after, I think, was when we'll release the video. But pretty cool. And these were printed on the Sigma BCN3D, just using the 4mm nozzle, which I didn't know if it would be able to print such high-quality detail because it's so tiny. I'm literally working with like 0.05 millimeter tolerances for building all the walls, which I'll show off next week.
Okay.
Actually, I have one right here if you want to look at it. The inside of that took quite a while to figure out how to get all the batteries and the wires and the copper tape and the little the push button to all work inside of there.
Where you can't use your fingers to build it, you have to use tweezers.
It was all tweezer work, yeah. Dual extruded bricks with conductive filament, says writer. Yes, so that was one of the first things that I wanted to do, but not everybody has a dual extruder, so I always have to think in that way. But the copper tape is, definitely a good way to go. Yeah. Just because the way, and I'll show how it's wired up next week. Just the way that you have to wire everything up to get the button to activate it, I would have to sort of jump through some hoops to get that to work, but this works out pretty well. And the dual extrusion part was what I was thinking of that, is for actually just the colors instead of doing the conductive material. So you can have two different sort of colors on one same brick. If we have one white light that'll illuminate, you know, like a red portion and a yellow portion for whatever, you know, character or whatever design that's in the scene. So it's one of the ways that I went with that.
Hey, Rasmus made a good point. Thanks, Rasmus, for that. We should work with our web team to get the show ticker to say, hey, we're live now, because a lot of people
do that. Yeah.
Well, we're on Wednesdays now. We
yeah. Okay.
Worked with the web team. We'll do that. Thank you. I'm gonna make a note of that and make sure that we get that going, because then more people will be able to know, hey, we're live. Because right now you have to kind of follow on Twitter or Facebook or the other, or YouTube.
So, let us know. Thanks, we got some work to do in terms of coming up with some creative ideas.
Yay,
with
that's cool.
Some ground effects. I don't know, whatever. That's pretty cool. All right, cool. That's what I've been prototyping.
Light of Legos.
This week.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Okay, next up we have this week's layer by layer.
Yeah, I'm actually going to do one after the show.
This one's going to cover...
yeah, so if you haven't seen last week's layer by layer, it was a fun, nice live event. So I'm going to try to do it live again. And last week I talked about... it was kind of the part 2 of the time-lapse enclosure. So in part 2, I talked more about how to get really nice snap fit, secured snap fit covers onto your enclosure, using these like little knobs and little indentations on the lip of your enclosure. So I'm actually going to do that again, but I'm going to do that with next week's project, which is that hexagon enclosure shape. So the kind of skinny of it is to use path on pattern, and how you can use that to really simplify your workflow. Because in that version there, I kind of made each one by hand. I could have used a pattern to do that. So I will show you how to do that later today.
Awesome.
Yeah. It will be live, so you guys can jump in and we'll do some live Q&A and stuff there too. So check that out. I have a playlist as well, linked below. As always, in all of our videos, we have links to all of the playlists and things. We have a layer by layer playlist, so you can check that out.
Cool. Move on over to this week's shop talk.
Okay. Shop talk.
So this week's Time-Lapse Tuesday with this, how do you pronounce it? Pangolin? Pangolin.
I like how you're Patagonian. It's Patagonian. Oops, wrong slide. Not pseudo-random.
So this is Pangolian. Damn it, we just heard the name of what it's described to as well.
Patagonia.
If you can go to the right overhead screen.
Oh, I was talking about the Sigma. I thought that was a shop.
Oh, no, we start off with this and then go into that.
Oh,
so
sorry.
dual extruded, Pangolin. Everybody's been printing out this super cute design. I decided to go ahead and make it a dual print. Super easy to do inside of Simplify 3D. You just go to the mesh menu and select separate connected meshes, and it'll give you each section, which you can then tell which extruder to print out of.
If you want a full tutorial on how we did it, or how you do that, you talked about, we did a sort of a live layer by layer, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yes. We'll link to it as well.
Okay.
When I did I believe the snake is, I covered that.
The snake, okay, cool.
But
so same process. All right.
So we're using the 0.6 millimeter nozzle again. It's like my favorite nozzle because of how fast you're able to crank prints out of that. Dual extruded, both 0.6 millimeters, and the cool thing that we're using here is a 1.75 millimeter diameter filament for this.
Yeah.
Just regular PLA. I did try PLA PHA, and that I'd need to adjust the settings for that. Just use regular, and I'm using the profile generator too on BCN's website to crank this out. No prime tower. It's just purging on the sides like usual, and it took 7 hours instead of the usual like 10 plus hours that other people are reporting of what this is taking. And another time-saving thing too is that I'm using a 0.3 millimeter layer height for this. So not super fine, but it gets the job done in terms of having all of the hinges not fused together, and turned out really well.
Yeah. Any contamination or anything?
So there is contamination, not like drastic, but
There's a teeny tiny
there's like
bit.
tiny little drops here and there,
There you go.
which is not bad at
Look,
all.
you wouldn't see them if you didn't point them out. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna point them out
That's
for
only
you.
on that one side.
Yeah.
There was the feet did the hinges for that did fuse, so
Okay.
that was the only thing. I'm sure that.
Was there any horizontal compensation?
Yeah, so the default for that is negative 0.1, I want to say.
Negative.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Inward. All right.
But this turned out really good. And if you guys want to dual print your own, you can either do the mesh separation, or I can just upload the STLs if you guys want to take a shot at that. I was going to print this on the Ultimaker 3, but it just didn't fit. I tried putting it on there diagonally, but because of the dual head design that they have, you do have a lower or a shrinkage of the build volume when you do that.
Mm.
And I was scared to scale any of this down because of the hinge parts. I was
Right.
concerned that it might not resolve well, that it might fuse together. So this fit perfectly on there.
Do you think this is the first Pagonian that's been dual extruded with different colors? I haven't seen anyone else kind of try that.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
All right. So again, guys, this was printed with 175 millimeter filament on the Sigma BCN3D printer, which is something that you can do. There is a little hack that you can do to enable 175 diameter filament to print properly on a Sigma.
Mm-hmm. It's literally just one screw that you're removing so that the
Right.
spring arm can fully grasp onto the filament. And we talk about it. We'll link it on the past episode
Do
where
you
we
wanna
showed that.
show it again or no?
Yeah, you can quickly run through it.
Cool. Let's do that.
So I forget what episode number this was. Skim through it so you can get right to it.
Sure. So this is sort of the whole process. Like, all right, take the filament out. You have to take this piece off.
Mm-hmm. Here's where the steppers are. You can just remove that, and it'll give you access to disconnect the motor. So you can take off that whole assembly, and that screw right there is actually what's causing
It's sort of an
the
end
spring
stopper.
arm.
It performs a little bit like an end stopper. It stops that handle from kind of grasping onto the filament fully. Okay, so you kind of take apart the assembly here so you can access that screw.
And
then
this
get rid
is
of
the
it.
main culprit right here, what you just
The
got to
main
get rid of.
culprit.
Yeah, just remove that, and then the spring arm will fully be able to apply pressure to the bearing so it can hold on to the filament.
And clean it while you're there. Why not? If it's that dirty.
Yeah, you want to clean this once in a while too. And that is pretty much it.
Put it back together without that
If you can see right there, it's like literally half of that length is what the spring arm needed to actually hold on to the 175 millimeter filament. And then for the tightening the adjustment, yeah, it was exactly the same. It's just 2 turns, and it's able to hold both
Right.
3 millimeter filament, or sorry, 2.85 and 175 millimeter filament, and that's pretty much all you have to do.
There's kind of the inside the.
Oh yeah, so you can see where
Right.
the gear is going up to.
Cool.
And then you just put it all back together and it works perfectly. The only thing that I had to change was the diameter size inside of Simplify 3D, and that worked perfectly.
Yeah.
And here we are printing.
This is with PLA PHA too, which is
PLA,
kind
yeah.
of difficult to print with because it has a bit of a warping.
Yeah, with printing dual, I haven't figured out the settings for that, but single print PLA PHA works beautifully on this with both the 4 millimeter nozzle and the 6 millimeter, 0.6, 0.4.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You put in hundreds of hours now with 175 filament,
Yeah.
so that's pretty awesome.
And again, testament to this.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect time to segue into the new Sigma 17 release as well. Early this
morning, the fine folks at BCN3D Technologies have released a new version, the R17 version of the Sigma. So here it is. So if you haven't checked it out already, go check out the video. Awesome new features. My favorite feature is probably the quiet fans.
The smart fan upgrade, yeah. So
Probably shouldn't play the whole video. We'll get a flag or something. So check that out.
nice, really.
It's on their website.
Really nice upgrades. My favorite, of course, is all the nozzles that they now have.
Yes. So this
So
is
you
a
go
big
from 0.3 all the way up to 1.0.
deal. Yeah.
So you're able to
crazy. It's crazy
print
details
massive
now.
amounts of
Your Lego will
their
be
own.
like super detailed now.
Oh yeah, with the 0.3, definitely going to test it out. Although the 0.4 works just fine.
Yeah.
So check those out. And they're also offering it as upgrades as well. It's about
Right.
$250, I want to say, US dollars for the
the
whole
set?
nozzle kit,
Whole kit.
and then the fan upgrade as well, which definitely wants it. I think only the Ultimakers are able to sort of with the thermistor or whatever figure out that, hey, the nozzle's not on, turn off the fan. So I'm guessing that's what this does as well.
Okay, so some folks are asking what makes it a strong nozzle, a robust nozzle. What do they call it? Non-abrasive nozzle?
Yeah, that's the
Stainless
0.5.
Yeah, okay.
The
so-
0.5 millimeter nozzle, they are going to have stainless steel, so you can use all of your bronze, copper, all your abrasive filaments.
Mhm.
I can run through on there. One thing that I always thought was a possibility was using different nozzles in the same print to speed up print time, and they say it's totally possible. Looks like that's what they've been doing, using different sized filaments for the infill, and then for the outer shell, they're using 2 different nozzle sizes for that
Okay.
to speed up print time.
In
So
the
that's
morning,
cool.
you were digging in a little bit more of the details. I think you said that the touchscreen is now capacitive touch.
Yes, I
little
did. I
update, but
did
think
see
it's a big one, too.
Roger can correct us too in the chat, but I noticed that it is now capacitive, so you don't have to push down on it to feel the resistive film touch down onto the screen. So that should be a lot more what's it called, better to UX wise. It'll
Yeah.
feel a lot more better when you're trying to get around the menu.
They're really pushing for soluble material. So, is there a special nozzle for that? Like how the Ultimaker 3 has a special nozzle?
Yeah, the print core, you have to use their BB core to do the PV
That's
on the Ultimaker.
Right.
And the Sigma looks like it'll work with any of them, so
Okay.
that's cool.
Sweet.
So
They have
definitely
the
check
best,
that out.
Animations and stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Right.
they're showing right there. The
Yeah.
using different nozzles for one for filament and one for
Yeah,
the
this is
outer shell.
great, yeah.
It's awesome.
It's such a smart, clever thing to do.
Hmm.
Makes it stronger and faster. It's like, what? You get
Mhm.
double?
And if you guys have an update, if you have the
Wow.
quote-unquote older Sigma, you can always check out the updated firmware. I think they just literally pushed one out on their GitHub page, if you check that out. So there should be
Feel the touch.
some little bug fixes on some of the screen when you're navigating through the menu. So check that out.
All right. Once we get our hands on them, we'll let you guys know.
I think, by next month or something like that, we'll be testing that out. Can't wait. Think
Cool.
I'm
Looking
gonna
forward to it.
request to have a second one, is because it's like,
I want to.
I know when I was printing these
They're
out,
gonna go right here.
I needed to print both sides of the Lego pieces, and I just
Yeah.
wanted to just use the Sigma for all of the pieces, so I don't have any mismatch in
Got it,
on
yeah.
the tolerances.
Okay.
So it will definitely help out.
Cool.
But that is it for this week's Shop Talk.
I think so.
I think we got some stuff for the community makes this week.
Yeah, we're running right through the show. Cool.
First one up is a lab power supply.
Yeah, I found this one on Thingiverse. Looks pretty cool. DIY. Sort of repurpose your old charging circuit in an old laptop power supply. So this is pretty neat. 3D printed enclosure, of course. Nice knobs. If you don't have a bench power supply, you can make one using some older parts that you might not need. That's kind of cool. Second one is this really nice dial. I really like this really nice dial. It looks like it's a combination of laser cutting and 3D printing and just kind of repurposing this fancy knob. So Thingiverse user All Wine Designs came up with this project, and he's using it to kind of do several different things, right? So he's jogging like a wheel. Oh, he made it in Fusion. That's cool. So he's kind of... Oh, this is kind of like the detail. All right, cool. I'm not sure what the microcontroller is. Maybe it's an Arduino compatible. Yeah, Arduino. Yep. I think that's a micro or something, or Palulu. Cool. So he's using it to kind of control his CNC machine. Looks pretty cool. You can also use it for software stuff. So volume control and maybe color picking inside of Photoshop or whatever. So it's pretty neat. I like buttons and knobs. I'm a civil guy. Here's another button. This one's from Kyle Moore. So this was a kind of a hack, sort of a repurposing project. He took the audio module from like one of those greeting cards that have an audio module in it. He just kind of made a nice, he broke it out into a nice little enclosure with a nice pushy button and a little speaker too. So very, very simple, but still pretty neat. I prefer this one than the paper card. This I kind of found this in the morning actually. This is a Raspberry Pi project using I think a Raspberry Pi 3 retro game, of course, or RetroPie, and just a, kind of a what is it, the Game Gear, I believe. So pretty neat, pretty big project. Can you imagine? And I think that's running. That looks like PS1. Not sure, but yeah, it's got all the things you would see on a nice handheld. So it's really cool. The last one I want to talk about was from Daniel Nori. He came out with some updates to his OpenRC F1. So this is the 2017 updates. So check that out. I have yet to build one, but I'm looking to build one. It'd be really fun. Cool. So check that out. Also, Danielle has has a great YouTube channel too. So check out his YouTube channel. I'll have it linked below. He's coming out with some great reviews and content and things. So shout out to Danielle Nori. All right. That's kind of it for the community makes. If you guys have any projects that you want to share with us, please do so. I'm always looking for projects. I always ask, and not many people give me links, so I'll keep saying it. Okay. It's just me now. Now Paige is doing stuff. Paige is getting Q&A ready.
Yeah.
'Cause that's where we're at now. We're in Q&A section. Thank you guys for hanging in there. And if you have any questions, drop them now. Writer, real quick on Writer. Yes, I will. I'll let you know 10 minutes before I do the layer by layer. I'm actually got to tear down the machine and bring it upstairs, so it takes me 5 minutes or so.
Okay, Writer is also asking for the OONS instrument. Could it be reworked using this controller? Yes. Todd did that already too, so you can check that out. Let me pull it up here. He took his code that he did for this project, the BLE MIDI stuff, and he worked it into the instrument. Yes. So if we look over here, you can see his guide. So his latest guide is actually that wireless instrument using BLE MIDI. So check that out. It's a wireless instrument. Yeah, he wrote the code for that, and I have yet to try it out, but I'm sure it works pretty well. Okay. Next up, for that same, the CNC milled part of the, what are you going to call it, the MIDI drum pad.
Yeah, I don't know what to call it.
People are saying they don't have a CNC. Will there be a 3D printed version?
Yes, you will be able to print it out in conductive PLA from Protopasta.
Mm-hmm.
You can use that. I was using that, but I wanted to solder directly to the aluminum. Obviously that doesn't work, so I used copper tape. Mm-hmm. So you can use copper tape, or you can use bare conductive on the on the printed plastic, because I tried to solder to the printed plastic. It doesn't work, obviously. But you can use bare conductive paint or the copper tape, like I said. So if you see underneath there, you can see how there's a copper tape
on each pad.
Yeah, I soldered a wire to the copper tape, and then the sticky backing sticks onto whatever surface is conductive.
It's actually exactly what I'm doing to make the light brick work.
Yeah,
you
soldered to the copper tape.
Yeah. Yep.
Great.
It's like how I'm doing that.
Awesome. Good question.
Jeremy Lee is asking, does anybody here print with polycarbonate? Any advice? Just got a roll, working up the courage to push my new hot end at 300 degrees. I have not. We do have polycarbonate. I just don't really have a use for needing that strength, but definitely check around YouTube for any tips for that. It is. I've seen that it is kind of tricky to print with.
Yeah.
I think you might need an enclosure.
I believe Tom might have a good tutorial on that.
Mm-hmm. Ryder was mentioning for the LED ring to connect the offset on the sticks to the ring, we could mill out a PCB to fix the problem. The only thing was that I didn't want to increase the size of that anymore.
Okay. Yeah, you're pretty much right up against it like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that is an option. You could do that.
Like an right angle to make custom PCBs would be cool. Well, the glow connectors. I've seen somebody
Yeah.
do that, which is really cool.
So Stuart is asking, which 3D printer for dual extrusion is your favorite? The BCN3D or the Ultimaker 3?
Yeah, tough question. Pedro, you can answer this since you have more experience with it than I do.
I want to say
So
the
I answered that one?
BCN so far, because of the way that you're able to use Simplified 3D, you can control your tool paths. As it stands right now for the Ultimaker, you can't use the Wi-Fi setting with anything other than Cura. And then I don't know all of the settings to sort of manipulate the tool path so it's not, doing any gaps between the walls or anything like that.
You have to design for Cura instead of making your slicer work for your design.
Exactly. That's what you're able to do with the VCN at the moment.
All right, so this is more of like, I like Simplified 3D than Cura.
That's
what you're saying.
Well, here's what makes me like the VCN then. The Ultimaker does not have the print cores ready for different size nozzles right now. They only have a 0.4 millimeter
really?
nozzle, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The VCN, as you can see now, they have from 0.3 all the way to 1 millimeter.
Doesn't one feel faster as well? So the Ultimaker is way slower because it has to cool down the print core and swap the nozzle.
Yeah. Another point there too.
Which one produces a better part though? One has less contamination than the other? Is that the...
So before the firmware upgrade on the BCN, I would have said that the Ultimaker does, but now I think they're pretty
On par?
on par, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed, which if you look back to on when we first got the Ultimaker, was a 0.2 millimeter nozzle. It looked like a 3 millimeter layer height to me, or I'm sorry, a 0.2 millimeter layer height looked like, it didn't look as fine as it did on the Sigma. It looked more higher quality on the Sigma for some reason than the Ultimaker. So I had to print I had 150 microns to match the 0.2 millimeter, the 200 microns that the Sigma did.
Yeah.
So might be firmware or updates inside of Cura that might have leveled it out now, but for now, I like being able to use 175 a lot more reliably.
Oh, that's another benefit is you can use 175.
Mm-hmm. More reliably, yeah.
More reliably. Hope that
Let's
answers
see.
your question. It's a tough one, but yeah.
It's cheaper, I want to say, right? The Sigma. It's cheaper than the Ultimaker. When is the new $150 mono price printer coming out?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think they mentioned it in the CES.
Is it a Delta
blog post.
bot? Isn't that
I think the Delta bot is, yeah.
Is that 150?
Yeah. And I think that is all.
Well, awesome.
This week.
It's been an hour, and hour-long show. Cool. Hey guys, if you want to support the show and want to pick up some stuff in the different shop, you can do so, and get 10% off. RGBW. I need some coffee.
That's why I always keep mine right here.
Yeah,
right near the middle of the show,
somewhere
towards the
there.
end.
Yeah. And then lunch.
Mhm.
All right. Well, it's fun hanging out with everybody. Thank
Yeah,
you
if you
guys
guys-
for coming in.
Yeah, if you guys have any suggestions for any of the upcoming projects that you guys want to see.
Yeah, Pedro needs some ideas for this Lego. So
Yeah. So right
drop them in
now,
the comments.
what I'm thinking is some sort of scenery, So we got the city little pack here. So I'm thinking all of the windows, all the cars, all that will be illuminated. But if you guys have any other
The box
ideas,
is bigger than you.
my original thought was, maybe the Millennium Falcon
Yeah.
have all the little parts light up, but I don't know if they'll have enough compartment parts in there to have everything illuminated. So maybe a city scene. If you guys have any suggestions for any Lego sets to check out that might look cool with a bunch of light up bricks, let us know.
Yeah. You want to take one last one real quick?
What's that?
How do Delta machines compare to non-Delta machines?
The leveling is going to be a little bit more different.
It depends if it has an auto probe and things.
Mm-hmm. That's still different than adjusting a plate.
It's
on the bottom.
I always go to the flexible material thing.
With Cheetah, that should work.
Okay.
Maybe.
But not regular.
Yeah.
85
Regular Ninja Flex.
A-Shore
Yeah, that's
hardness.
not going to work.
Okay.
Cheetah should work theoretically. I've not tried it, but the people from CMC were able to get it to print on their Aries Delta printer.
Jeremy has a cool idea. Minecraft logic blocks as Legos, switches, gates, arrows, shooty things. That sounds really cool. For now, it's mainly just a light up brick.
Yeah,
those
we'll
are
start
really
off small
cool.
and then go up from there. If you guys been watching for a while, you've seen that we'll start off with a simple project and then keep adding on to that like months.
Refining it.
Refining it,
Yeah. Cool. All right, great questions. Thank you guys so much.
Headlights on the cars. Yep, that is
Yeah.
definitely on the list.
That's a good one.
The thruster is on a spaceship. Yes,
That's a good idea.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Maybe
So,
we should stick around for more ideas.
Or tweet at us.
Tweet
Where are
us.
we? Yeah,
Yeah.
NeoPixel Ekin on Instagram. Same thing. Let us know what ideas you guys have.
Okay. Later tonight is Show and Tell in Ask an Engineer, so check that out. It's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
We'll be there showing
Yeah.
off this week's projects, maybe a little sneak peek of other things.
Good time all the time.
Join
Lady
us.
Ada is on like every other day, so check that out. Be sure you're subscribed.
Actually, for the
to
past
Ada.
2 weeks, they've been going on every night.
Yeah,
so
every night.
check that out.
Crazy.
A lot of
That's
cool
awesome.
stuff that she's showing off there.
Mm-hmm. Fundamentals.
Yep.
Good stuff. Tony D's are on Fridays. And
A lot of cool stuff on the upcoming
Yep.
MicroPython. So check that out.
I need a John Parker video.
Crap,
I don't have the John Parker thing yet. So.
But he comes out on Fridays as
yeah,
well.
Just pretend that's John Parker with an Adafruit box. And the word says John Parker.
Mhm.
Yeah, so he'll have, was it Friday? He'll have a video on Friday. Cool.
Usually Fridays, yeah. And then don't forget to like, share,
And subscribe. Make sure you
subscribe.
Yeah, cool. All right, check out the blog tomorrow for all the posts and things. So
Mhm.
we'll get on those.
Yep.
All right, guys. We will see you next week and later tonight.
See you guys. Thanks for joining.
Bye, everybody.